Alright, starting recording. Am I cutting out? So for tonight, I am going to mess around with some washi tapes. And these are actually, let me see if I find the right camera. Um, these are Seven Gypsies masking tapes. So it's a lot like American masking tape. I don't know what you guys have over in the UK. Um, this is really a lot like standard American painter's tape or masking tape, except it's double sided. Um, and then I have some, what do they call it? It's 3M micro pour. It's a fabric bandage tape, and it looks like that, and it behaves a lot like washi tape, except I think um, it's polyester. I got my Seven Gypsies tape at the clearance rack at my local AC Moore. Yeah, Carrie, I figured I'd pull it out for, or bring this one down for you. Rick. Um, so I've fallen in love with the whole washi tape thing because it's friggin' cool. They come in really bright colors, and it's kind of fun. So my only problem with it is it's really friggin' expensive. A roll like this usually retails for like $3, which is outrageous to me. And then when you get into the decorated tapes, it's even worse. So when you get the washi tapes straight from Japan, they're really expensive, and especially when you start getting the we'll see you when you come back, Ave. When you get into those, you can pay 5, 6, $8 for a small roll of tape. The tissue tapes by Ranger are $8.99 or $8.50 for a little 2-roll 16-meter pack, or yard, 16-yard pack. And I find that just really outrageous. I mean, it's really expensive. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some tapes onto some plastic and then mess around with decorating them. And I've got some tiny rubber stamps. These are all coffee related. I've also, I've got a handful. I don't do a lot of rubber stamps. I got a handful of like stamps that I've gotten off the clearance rack. I've got some magnetic alphabet stamps and things like that, but I don't do a lot of rubber stamping. And maybe one of you stampers can tell me the difference between a pigment ink. I got a couple of pigment ink pads and a dye-based ink, because I've got some pigment inks. I got some Tim Holtz, and I have to say, I know I'm really down on the Tim Holtz and the Ranger product range. The distress inks are really friggin' nice. So the dye ink is not waterproof, but the pigment ink is. Okay, that's good to know. So we'll do a little of both. And I got one of these on the clearance rack. I don't use a lot of different colors of ink. Like I'll buy ink with a purpose. Like I have a recycling stamp. So I bought this green ink for it. I got the walnut ink because I wanted to grunge up some pages in my art journal. I did Christmas cards one year, so I bought a white stamp pad. But the rest of the stuff that I use is all black. So, for the most part, that's what I've got. I've got a couple of other, I cut some design-based stamps. I don't know if you can see that because of the glare. And I think some of those smaller ones will work well on the washi tape. And I do some carving. Let me see if I can find it. There's this plumber's gasket material. I think it's actually upstairs. This plumber's gasket material. It comes in a 4x4 square. and you can carve it with like a yeah, red rubber. That's what you taught. That's exactly right, Rick. And you can buy it in a 2-pack at Home Depot for a couple of bucks. So it's a 4x4 4x4 inch square, and you can cut it. And you can carve rubber stamps out of it with a carving tool. Yeah, great stuff, Rick. So I also bought some clear stamps on the clearance rack. I don't have, like I said, I don't have a lot, but the other thing that I found on the clearance rack was this Fiskars stamper thing. I don't know what the hell it's actually called. And it's got these little foam things in the corner. Let's see if I can actually that squish down. So you put your clear stamps on here, and then squish the whole thing down to print it. And I was actually thinking, how cool would it be to take the red rubber and be able to stick it on here and stick it to that. Yeah, Dale, I don't stamps. I usually, like I said, I usually buy them with a purpose, or like, you know, if I'm going to do Christmas cards or things like that. But I thought this thing was really cool, so I figured, you know, even if I couldn't stick the red rubber to it, I probably, you know, I'm pretty sure I can. I've got some contact cement and stuff. Like I could probably get, like, the stuff that I carved my rubber stamps out of. I could probably get the speedball stuff to stick to it and get a decent print. So here's a little pattern stamp I carved out of eraser. So that's cool for making like a background, but you could stick it to this. I'm trying to figure out how to stick it and how to get more extension on the leg to get it to print more easily. So carpet tape, that's a good idea. How is it that we have the Ustream bot? I think that like every time I have a show, it's just like, oh, holy crap, Leslie's having a show. Ustream bot needs to go. Because usually the Ustream bot doesn't show up in other people's stores until people start swearing in the chat room, or you try and post too many links. So I need to get some plastic here. See if I can find one without a major pattern or a logo. Amy, my art field trip was awesome. We went to Starbucks in Saugus. Let me see if I can find Webcam Max. So we went to Starbucks in Saugus, which is, it's not the nicest Starbucks in terms of friendliness. But we didn't think they would kick us out, and they didn't. So that was good. And we, no, I don't want that camera. That camera sucks. So we ended up being there for until about 1 o'clock, and then we went to Artists and Craftsmen. Why won't you go with the right camera? There we go. So we ended up going to Artists and Craftsmen afterwards, and we decided to do a swap, which, oh, I don't want the picture-in-picture there. Yeah, all 5 or 6 of my rubber stamps. Yeah, we'll put me in the corner there. Let's see how that works. So, yeah, we were there for several hours, and it was good. We had a good time. We're going to do a journal exchange, which I've been wary of in the past, especially after I was involved with nervousness.org. because I don't know if any of you were ever involved with nervousness. I got to switch back here so I can see you. Nervousness.org was this really cool concept where you know, you could go and you could swap arts. I did a lot of journal swaps on there. I did a lot of artist trading card swaps. What else did I do? Nervousness.org was like this. It was just this really cool concept that never really did well. And you know, it concept was great. It just never did well. And ever since I've been burned on there, some guy stole all my ATCs, said he never received them. Yeah, when swaps go well, they're awesome. When they go bad, it's really terrible for everyone involved. So, you know, I've been wary of doing a swap ever since then. So, especially after the guy stole, like, I had done like 30 pen and ink ATCs. And I had really, I'd spent a lot of time on them, and they were all original mini pieces of artwork that I had done en plein air. I'd taken them out, and I'd gone on location and did some of my drawings that I was doing at the time on them, and the dude stole them. Or said they were lost. Maybe they got lost in the mail. I don't know. He said all he got was an empty envelope. And anyway, so burned. I was burned by it. So I haven't done another swap since then. And obviously, you know, for good reason. Rick, can I tell you something? I don't even know where that is. And I'm kind of tied to the area right now. So I thought I would mess around with some darker colors and with some lighter colors here. I gotta say, I wish I'd picked up another roll or another package that had this coffee color in it. These rolls are not, I think they're 16 yards long, so there's not a lot of, I don't know, here's the coffee color. I'm really in love with it. It's a fantastic color. So most of the inks that I have are, you know, chocolate browns, stuff like that. No, these are not the tapes that I got on Etsy. The tapes that I got on Etsy, I actually am using for a very specific project. So I don't know how much I'm going to need of them, so I'm not using them for this. So I got a bunch of tapes on this plastic, and the good thing about this plastic is that it lets me peel stuff up. And I'm going to try some other stuff too with the inks. This paper tape, the medical tape, is very thin. I don't know. Of course, you can't see it all. Let me move the camera a little more. I'm gonna have to move the camera. Sorry. All right. So here are the tapes, and you can see they're pretty. This looks a lot like that text-wise, and you can see it's pretty transparent. This stuff seems to. What do you mean it won't? You mean peel it off like a Band-Aid? You're gonna have to pull it off fast. Alright, so I've got a dye paste based stamp pad, which everyone says is not waterproof, so we'll skip that. And then I've got these classic pigment cat's eyes from Color Box. And then I've got another Color Box black. Let's do this little star. One of the things that I notice is unless I ink it really heavy, the texture of the tape comes through, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I also don't clean my stamps. I don't, you can see that. So I just did a straight pattern with that. I don't know if this is archival or not. Anyone know if the color box pigment stamp dot pad is archival? Acid free. What did I do with the rest of my piddly stamp collection here? I also have a bunch of wine corks that I've carved into shapes. Those are really fun too. Did another little star pattern on a champagne cork. Really gotta get my other stool over here. Let's do some feet. Yeah, this is acid-free archival ink. The black one is. Do some footprints. Suppose I could do them the other way, couldn't I? The stamping, I like stamping, but if I weren't doing this right now for you guys, no, Christy writes in a journal, but she doesn't art journal per se. She does music and stuff. Let me think. Let's try the white pad, which will probably end up being gray because I'm one of those horrible people that doesn't clean her stamps ever. Since I almost only use black ink, there doesn't seem to be much of a point in my cleaning my stamp pad. Oh, and on this one I used brown ink, and that's a really juicy stamp pad. Hey Jay. So right now I'm just printing the same stamp over and over again, but it would be pretty easy to do, let's see, a muffin, and a French press, some coffee beans, and then repeat the pattern. Yeah, you know what? I don't think I like this white stamp pad. It's shit. Well, the ustream bot won't like that. I have to tap it really carefully. That looks terrible. The flu from hell. I don't have the flu from hell. I just have the cold that's been going around the damn office because no one will friggin' stay home from work. Seriously, if you're sick, stay home. Don't get the rest of us sick. I took, I did, however, take some nasal spray stuff to see if it would help. We'll find out if it did. I've kind of messed up my pattern here. Not that it really matters too much. Right? I mean, if I were being anal about it, I'd be very upset right now. But I can't be bothered. So is someone going to tell me how bad it is for me to not clean my my stuff? Because I'm sure someone's dying to tell me how bad it is for me to not clean my. Look, I'm putting them right away. I'm a rebel. Alright, so the white stamp pad kind of sucked for those tiny little stamps. I bet it would be better with like a larger stamp. So I'm going to try this. You know, these little cat's eye things remind me of makeup. Makes me not like them very much. Nah, I really don't care, Jay. I figure that it just dries on it, and since most of the time I use pretty much only black ink, I can't be overly worried about it. I mean, they're cheap stamps from AC Moore. Alright, so I think I'm going to heat set these now. What would you recommend for inks, Carrie? Because these take forever to dry. I don't know if you could just see that, but the plastic was smoking. Luckily, my basement is well ventilated. Yeah, it does take forever to dry. We'll find out, because I'm going to try and peel it off in a few minutes here. I do keep burning the plastic though. Alright. It peels up okay. There's no residue left on the plastic. Yeah, but I want it to be waterproof. If you don't use the pigment inks, then it's not going to be waterproof. And you want it to be waterproof because you might layer over this. And that one wasn't totally dry. Yeah, these are all fine. They're going to peel up just fine. So they do, even after heat setting. And I don't know if you can see, I warped the plastic all to hell. So this is the piece of medical tape, and it does peel off. It does peel off just fine, and that's what it looked like. Let me see if I have a sheet of white paper. I've got to have some white paper here somewhere that I can stick that to. Come on. Okay, this will work. This is close to white. Oh, and that one did not set at all. Yeah, it did peel up easy, and it has the most washi-like appearance of any of the tapes that I'm messing with tonight. But it did not heat set. I have ink all over my hands now. So I'll put that back down here. Yeah. I also had a lot of ink on that, and I can't see if it's dry or not. So far what I've seen is this actually behaves. Yeah, still not dry. I'm going to switch to my dye-based pad for the rest of this to mess around with because it'll dry fast. We'll do a little pattern with some stuff like that. Well, that I think my pad, it's been so long since I've used it, might be a little dried out. Seeing as how I get out my rubber stamps maybe once a year, it's not entirely surprising that they might be dried out. I'm doing a horrible job with my patterns, but and this stamp pad sucks because I buy cheap stamp pads. So I think that the medical tape will actually work really well. I mean, obviously you're gonna have to mess around with it until you get what you want. But now, here's a question I have for you stampers out there. Will any of the pigment inks, will those dry on their own at all over time, or will I have to heat set them? Because this white one still looks wet. And it is. And I had a problem with that in my art journal. I used it to stamp little snowflakes. Well, I wouldn't say that these are glossy. Yeah, okay. I have a feeling that white stuff is never going to dry. Good to know. Good to know. All right, what did I do with the medical tape? I'm a little scatterbrained tonight. I took some nasal spray, and I think it's affecting me mentally. Seriously, what? Where's Poe? Poe, oh, there it is. Ha 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 ha. I'm gonna try out some different stuff with this. So now that we know that this won't heat set, I can really mess around with it. Yeah, this is micropore. And you spelt it right. Yeah, it's kind of fibery. They sell a couple of different kinds. But it is a micropore. We got it for our dog when she popped her tumor. Ew. That was some nasty stuff, let me tell you. Yeah, I was not pleased. That was not a good day in the house. So the other thing about the washi tapes is that they come in all kinds of super cool colors. And easy to color coordinate. So my thought is why couldn't you paint some in the colors that you use in your journal a lot or think you might use, and have it so it color coordinates. And I'm just using cheap craft paints. These are Making Memories, another Scrappers brand. Making all my scrapper people happy there. These are, I actually really like these Making Memories paints for art journaling because they don't stick. And they're on the clearance rack a lot. They come across as slightly better than most of the craft paints out there. So I'm not even doing patterns at this point. I'm just squishing some paint onto this tape because I want to find out if I'm putting a lot on here. I'm trying to find out if with a heavy layer of paint, if this tape will come up, or if it's going to bond it to the plastic, and if I want to know if I'll have any stick left. I'm becoming a scrapbooker. Not likely, Rick. Not likely. Rick, you'll like this color. Can you see that on the screen? Hooker's green. Come on, ba-dum-bum on that one. I agree with you, Natasha. You are preaching to the choir when it comes to Tim Holtz masks. I have been very unhappy with my Tim Holtz masks. They don't stick to. It was on sale. I am normally a Liquitex fan, but if I find something on sale or in the clearance rack, I'll buy it. Normally, I am all about my Liquitex. See, I am not the only one who has problems with Tim Holtz masks. I am not alone. Yeah, and don't even try and spray ink on them. You'll have really bad results. I like Hooker's Green. Hooker's Green is a nice green color. Reminds me of evergreens. You know, um, you know what's interesting? So about this I have been ranting and raving um about the Tim Holtz masks and tape for a while now. I've tweeted about it. I wrote a blog post about it, and I got not one response from Ranger. One would think that a big company like Ranger would be all over that. The company I work for, if you make one bad tweet about them, they are up your butt wazoo in like 2 seconds. You've got 23 marketing people all up your butt, asking you if you want a gift card or how can we fix that. Even when I tweeted about how much I hated the Danvers store, the Danvers AC Moore, which is a horrible company in this area. They're local, so I try and support them. Or they're out of New Jersey, so they're East Coast U.S. Um, you know they were all up in my business, and they found out what was wrong, and but that's what I think businesses are supposed to do. No, I didn't contact Ranger because it doesn't. It's just I'm at the point where I'll never buy another one of their products other than one of their ink pads again. I'll never buy, you know, one of their other items because I've just been burnt. So, you know, I learn from my mistakes some of the time, and I don't know. I think in this day of age, if someone tweets about your product, you should be talking to them. You should be trying to figure out what's wrong. How do you fix it? How do you make it better? Not ignoring the problem. But that's my philosophy. From their sheeps, from their sheeple. Well, you're probably right, but they should care because for every person that hears me rant and rave about how horrible the tissue tapes are, there are 50 people who read my stuff saying, you know what, I'm never buying their crap. So it should, maybe it doesn't matter to them, but it should. I mean, not for nothing, my blog post about the Ranger tissue tapes got quite a few hits. So, and that blog post about the tissue tape um, gets more hits every day. It's not just like it's sitting there static. It's not. I mean, it's tagged. I get Google hits on it, and you'd think at least one person from Ranger would respond. They've got to have a marketing team or person who's in charge of that sort of thing. But if they want to ignore it, fine. I don't even know who Advantis is. I'm assuming that's who makes some of their products. You tweeted them to tell them to come watch. Oh man. Oh. Watch me talk angrily about your product. I'm sure they'll be right over. Check the packaging for what? What are you checking the packaging for? I'm going to use the tape to see how yeah, kind of as a transfer, I guess. I'm contaminating all of my liquid paints with other colors because I'm using a dirty brush. Bad artist. I had a friend in college who used to paint out of his paint tubes like this, and it used to drive me nuts because he constantly contaminated his paints. And I never really understood why it didn't bother him. I kind of get it now, but not enough that I would do this with like my heavy bodied paints that I actually paint with. So now that I've got these like base colors on here, some of them are dry already, or close to dry. Really? I thought that all that ideology and all that stuff was all by Ranger. Or it certainly comes across that it's by Ranger. Maybe because it's all merchandised together. So, it peels up easily. It still has plenty of stick. And so that's what one of the pieces of tape looks like. You can see on the backing that some of the paint does seep through. So there's another one. So I think that the micropore tape will actually make really cool tapes. And then you could just store it once you've made it on a piece of, I wouldn't stick it to wax paper, but like a piece of plastic coated paper, like freezer paper would work. Or if you have another sheet, like a piece of plexiglass you want to store it on. But like this, I could take this piece of paper and just stick it in the back of my journal. And you can see both sides. Here's one side, and then here's the other side. So here's what they look like with acrylic paint. And this micropore stuff is not, I want to say it was $4 or $3 for 2 rolls, and this is what, 1.5 inches wide? I do think if I worked really juicy on this, and heavy impasto, it would probably not do well. No, look, it's just as sticky as when I stuck it down. I mean, the stick is not, it didn't lose any stick hardly at all. So that's what it looks like with acrylic paint. Yeah, I mean, if you're, I mean, I probably won't use the whole roll of this tonight messing around with it. When you compare it to, you know, buying actual washi tape, this is pretty cheap. So I'm going to try, whatchamacallit, I'm going to try some watercolor crayons next. Also, I wonder if this is the good one. This is the new one. Michaels has this new line of acrylic paint pens called Craft Smart. 2 of them are $1.99. And they seem to work well. They say that they're acrylic paint, so and I noticed that they had like an entire set. I don't think they're as nice. I tried one, but I wrote on a gessoed page with it. I did some doodling on a page that had gesso on it and ruined the tip. So I gotta try them a little more before I give a yay or nay. But I mean, at $1.99 for 2, and then they had like a 10 set or 12 color set for $10. That's pretty affordable in comparison to the now defunct and extinct Sharpie ones. So I'm not really doing anything with any rhyme or reason here. I'm just doing some scribbles. Slathering on some color. So one of the cool things about the washi tape that I've got is that it's kind of semi-transparent. Slathering is a great word. So in one of my other videos, I said that I wanted pre-yellowed plastic tape. And if anyone from Ranger is watching, I would love to license that with you. Should totally copyright that. So yeah, some pre-yellowed plastic tape. Yeah, the Sharpies aren't being manufactured anymore, as far as what Sharpie has said. They're not making those. The paint pens anymore. At least not the water-based. For those of you who are looking for a replacement for the Sharpie paint pens, there's a company called chalkink.com, and they do. Well, I did announce it on one of my other shows. Yeah, they're not the same. So chalkink.com does a very, very similar product. We use them at work. They also do a marker called Hardcore that's made for graffiti artists, and it don't come off. So the chalkink.com markers are really fantastic. I mean, really nice stuff. They're a little pricey, but they do a good job. So I'm just trying to, I don't know, mix some of these colors together, I guess. Get them thoroughly blended on the... Now I suppose I could have just left those just pure, just like crayons on them. Ooh, I should try crayons. I should get my crayons out. So that's what it looks like wet. Now we're going to find out, and I really wet them down because I want to know how it's going to respond to being wet. This would probably be a better job for a hairdryer. So one of the things that I'm noticing from the crayons is there's a little pilling of the surface. We'll see how it feels in a second. Well, I think that's what I wanted to do tonight, was to show people that you don't have to use pre-made stuff. You can take a roll of masking tape. You can take a roll of I'm stuttering a lot tonight. Or of micropore, and you can add materials that you already have at home, and create a color palette of tape that goes along with the stuff that you use a lot anyway. So there's no reason to rely on, you know, pretty tape or MT tape or any of the other washi tapes, because you can create your own really inexpensively. And you know, I can take an X-Acto knife and I could slice these in half and get cool patterns. I could then, you know, now that I've got this like this, I could put I could add some rubber stamping to it. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm just going to attach these. They're still a little damp, and they peel right up. Oh, when they're wet, the stick peels up a little bit. And it left a little residue on that one. So I think we're going to have to... Ooh, now I've got paint on my hands. Let me see what happens when I dry them a little further. I think that the wet is causing the problem. But like what I was saying is, you don't need to rely on the stuff like the tissue tapes. You can make your own using this. What I would like to see from some of the companies is a plain roll of nice washi. You know, maybe this thickness, so that you could cut it in half, you could decorate it, you could do what you want. That way it's archival. You could use it in your art journal and not worry about it peeling off a couple years later. And it's going to stick. You know, let's give us a good quality product that we can use in a multimedia way, rather than giving us a half-assed tape that barely works or doesn't stick, or only sticks to paper, won't stick to acrylic paint, or won't stick to itself, or something like that. Evelyn, yeah, I that's actually one of the tapes that I bought, was a pure white tape from Cute Tape, I think. It might have been Pretty Tape. It was one of the Etsy sellers. Alright, let's see how the stick is on these now. That one's pretty dry. Is that what it is? The Cute Tape is her website? I thought there was Pretty Tape and then Cute Tape. And they were two separate people. Alright, so I'm peeling this one off. And I shook it a little bit so that it would cool off. And now that it's cool, it didn't stick. So when you're peeling your tapes off, the background you're working them on, make sure that they're dry. I don't know if you can see that one. Make sure that they're dry so that you don't lose any of your stickum. Same thing with this one. This one's dry. Dry and cool. Yep, this one was still a little damp. Where it was still damp, some of the stick started to come up a little bit. But you can see, here's the top one is the watercolor crayon. Gave me a nice washed effect. I think Cute Tape has a couple of different manufacturers that she buys from. She and I emailed a couple of times back and forth because I reviewed her product on my blog after I bought some. She's actually very, very nice. She was considering Seven Gypsies tape. But the cool thing about her is that she breaks the products up. So usually MT tape comes in a 3-roll pack. She will actually sell you a single roll. Plus she does the triple packs, the 3 packs of the product. So you can get the 3 rolls or you can get a single roll. And she doesn't increase the price for the single roll. So when you buy the single roll, it's actually a third of the price that the 3 pack comes for. Yeah, check out Pretty Tape then. She has that off Etsy shop. So yeah, so here are some experiments. I think this is a much more representative selection of tape for me and of my personality and things that I'll end up doing versus something that I could just buy. I mean, don't get me wrong, like the tapes that I bought on Etsy are pretty representational of me. You know, I picked up, because I have no self-control, I did purchase the grid tape. So it's gridded. But there's nothing saying that I couldn't draw a grid on one of these with a Sharpie or something, you know? So I want to try some markers on here. Now, any of these tapes, the acrylic or the watercolor tape, I could draw with markers on it. But I think one of the cool things about this tape is that it's see-through. And it's also, it's kind of fibery, which is cool. So I brought down my marker bag. Now I know I preach about having stuff and too much stuff. And part of that is because I can't resist stuff myself. Oh, and actually the marker that I wanted to test out is upstairs. So I have a bare minimum of stuff like the Copic markers. And I'd heard of the Permapeg. Thanks, Rick. Thanks for stopping by. I'd heard a lot about the Permapeg markers by Sakura. So I had to buy a couple of them. And the other one that I wanted to test out is the black one, which I actually like quite a bit. We'll try out the Sharpie. We'll try out the Copics on it. We'll try painter's pen and see if it drools all over the place. And then my Martha Stewart pen. So this is the Martha Stewart Crafts Ebony marker. I hate to be a fan of anything Martha Stewart, but her bullet point markers are fantastic. So I'm just going to do a little rough cross hatching on this because that's something I do a lot in my journal. So a tape with cross hatching on it would fit right in. And you can see this this Martha Stewart marker is it's pretty dried up. It's an older marker. I've had it for a long time. I'm actually pretty shocked at how long it's lasted, given that I'm not very nice to my markers. I put them point up all the time, and so I'm pretty sure you'd probably get the same effect with a Sharpie. But the good thing about the Martha Stewart markers is interesting. Now this Copic is still pretty juicy, but I'm getting a really rough, really cool texture. Seems like the wetter media penetrates down into the fabric a little more because this is it's kind of fabricy. I'm just scribbling over the top of that with the black. Now my one worry with the alcohol inks is that they're going to soften the glue. Try some Sharpie on it. I think the Sharpie might actually be too thin. And actually the Sharpie is awesome. Sharpies, surprisingly, are fantastic. The Sharpie pens. I am not a huge Sharpie pen fan, but the Sharpie pen was awesome on that. Yeah, it soaks in. I don't know. I don't think you're gonna be able to pick it up when it's not. There you go. Um, you can kind of see it. It's pretty see-through. So the red, it's not as fibery looking as the black pen and the gray Copic were. Those kind of just skipped over the surface a lot. I'm going to do a similar kind of squiggle thing with the paint marker. And the black paint marker gave me a nice sharp squiggle line too. So right now I'm just kind of, actually, you know what we're going to try next? So for those of you who don't know, I am a huge fan of fountain pens. And one of my recent obsessions has been picking up new ink. Because Christy and I both now, I've got Christy using fountain pens. And it just, it's awesome to also have her on the bandwagon now. Anyway, I bought a new ink to mess around with. And I'm pretty much in love with it. It's a really nice blue color. Yeah, ooh, I just wasted I don't know if you can see that. I have wasted a metric ton of very, very expensive ink. We'll kind of smear that onto the other. So I just did some lines in my new ink color and then some ink smear. Now if I was feeling really I don't know, ambitious, I guess I would make this into a gridded an 1/8 inch grid. But I kind of like the ink smear. Let's see. Here's a Letraset marker. See how that works. Again, this is really a really juicy marker too, and it's really, it seems like the alcohol ink markers don't do very well on this, and it pills up. See, I've got my Prismacolor too. I'll try both of those. Yuck. Those stink too. Did you guys see how I did this mirror? In case you ever want to replicate it. I had ink. See if I can not knock everything over. I had ink all over the edge of my ruler, and just rubbed it across the tape. So let's see how those look on white. I mean, let's face it, some of the stuff that I'm doing, not all of it's going to end up being good. Some of it's going to suck. But this is indicative of like what I do in my art journal. This is, I do a lot of testing of stuff. I try things out. Actually, on the white paper, that one's pretty cool. It's like a zebra. But the cool thing about it is that you can see through. This one's actually really cool. The squiggles with the Sharpie. I think so far that's my favorite. I do a lot of doodles like that too. If I'm ever on a conference call with you, know that I'm squiggling all over pieces of paper like that. It's my fun with the doodle. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool too. This one's kind of lame. It's just like an overlay of color. I had some paint on here and it peeled up the paint. So it's got plenty of stick with markers, ink, watercolor. All that leaves it with plenty of stick. There's no lacking of glue on these. I'm worried that the ink smear is still wet. So I left it. Yeah, it's a little wet. Actually it's a lot wet. So there you have it. In roughly an hour, I've created a whole bunch of different tapes that I can use in my art journal. Yes, Mitzi, it's freezer paper. Hey Kai, I just spent an hour trashing Tim Holtz and his tapes and showing people how to make their own. Only partially kidding. I didn't trash Tim Holtz for the whole hour, just maybe 15 minutes of it, and I was really only trashing the tapes and the masks. Yeah, Mitzi, I think what I'll do is because I might cut it in half so it fits in my art journal, and then I'm just gonna store them, folded in half like this, in my art journal, so that when I want it, I can just open it up and I can peel off a piece or just tear off a little piece and stick it in. And then I did some rubber stamped as well, Kai. But that's Paula's husband. Right, he is. And only if Paula's a man. That didn't come out how it sounded. Anyway, or that came out wrong. No, it's exactly what I meant. Anyway, the whole point of this was you don't have to buy expensive tapes. You can get the micropore stuff and paint it. It didn't lose any stick at all with acrylic paint. With the watercolor, the only time it had problems was when I peeled it off and it was still wet. So if you start losing stick, it's because your stuff is too wet. You got to let it dry better. So here's a final look. These are, what are these? Top two are watercolor, and then oh no, here, this is how it goes. The top one is watercolor, and then these all the way down to here are all acrylic. So this center section is all acrylic paint, and then these are watercolor crayon, and then a few more watercolor crayon here, and then different kinds of markers and ink. Super easy. Like I said, I did all this in an hour. It's a little messy. I mean, I've got more ink and paint on my hands than I usually like. But I think if I was working for myself, I would put the tape on here and then set it aside and then let it thoroughly dry before I tried peeling it off and moving it around to the freezer paper. And I think really the least successful are the other rubber stamped pieces. But that's probably because I'm a crappy rubber stamper. If I were a better rubber stamper, these would probably have come out a lot better. But these, I see a lot of use for stuff like this in my future. I mean, I could unroll an entire thing of this and you know, paint it like this and get some really cool tape. And there's nothing to say that I couldn't then roll that back up onto the roll, or put it around my spray bottle to store it if I wanted it in roll format. So I think that this is a really successful experiment, and I hope everybody that's watching got a chance to gets a chance to try it out, because it's pretty cheap and pretty fun. Any questions, comments? Oh, you know what I didn't try? More experiments. We need more. I gotta try this new paint marker from Michaels. If I can find the end of this. I got a whole other roll of this upstairs. I don't know, Paul. It's pretty inexpensive. I think Christy just got home. Yep. I hear the dogs whine now. Yeah, it's medical tape. Okay. Alright. The stuff at the very end of the roll is kind of weird acting. So with the first one, I realized I had to shake it really well. It's often out of stock already. Let's see. I never have any scrap paper when I want it. Top of a sketchbook will have to do. Well, I noticed that already, that the flow on this one is better than the last. Probably because I haven't damaged the tip all to hell. It's definitely acrylic paint. It is pulling a lot of the fibers off the tape. So it's going to be a little more pilly than I might want. This is another pattern I do when I go on conference calls. No, you know why I didn't try the jelly roll pens? I only have a white jelly roll, and it's in my other drawing kit. It's in my kit that I take with me when I go on my art field trips. But actually, this isn't even. That's the cheap version. That's the fake one. Yeah, I didn't try it, but you know what? I'm pretty sure do I have a ballpoint down here? Probably not. We don't have a lot of ballpoints in the house. I'm willing to bet that a jelly roll would work just fine on it because even this cheap Marvy, is actually writing on it. You won't be able to see it because it's white. But it is, and this thing doesn't write on anything. Actually, put that in the trash. Oh, you know what I do have? This is just a, what is this? This is a Bic pen. So the paint marker did well, but it will pill, I think, if you're doing a lot of detail. And then that's the roller ball. So I think that any roller ball, like the jelly roll, would do fine on it. So that's cool. That's really cool. All right, Christy's home. So anyone got any questions? You know, I think, yeah, it'll definitely smear at least when it's wet. If you I should have let a part of that dry, but that it's smeared at first. But I think if you let it dry, it's not going to smear. No problem. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate everyone coming. I had a good time as always. I did record, Kai, so you can definitely check out everything and all the stuff that I tested. I think that this is, I hope other people try it and test it out. Cool. Alright, thanks everyone. It's my mouse.